Instead of Jey going on his own as a heel, what if Jimmy ends up following suit? Okay, now hear me out. I have a little pinch of a theory, just a pinch, okay? Because we all know it's a whole conversation about Jey possibly going on his own, maybe turning on Jimmy. But what if that doesn't happen at all? What if we get a different type of twist? Now I'm thinking, since Jimmy's always playing this brother's keeper storyline, right, where he always feels the need to protect Jey and always watch over Jey, always, since Bloodline days started, Jimmy has always played the brother's keeper and still does to this day for Jey's storyline. What if that comes into play in this storyline? Okay, now? Because on Monday Night Raw that just passed, we all know the Usos reunited and stuff like that, and I find it kind of interesting, how, they're just keep symbolizing that we're back, like, it's just us now, we're going to be together. And then also in the promo, too, as well, backstage, when Jimmy and Jey's promo backstage, when Jey was going to leave, Jey was like, what about me? What about us, And, and then Jimmy's like, you're turning into Roman Reigns, stuff like that. You guys remember that promo, right? I kind of found it kind of interesting how he said, what about us? I feel like that's going to play into a little part. And then to see Jimmy also, recognizing Jey kind of picking up the mentality of Roman Reigns is very interesting. Because we all remember back in 2023, Jimmy's explanation for turning on Jey was basically, because he didn't want him to become like Roman or sustain amount of power so he can turn out to be like Roman and just be this, dude running wild and just doing a bunch of destructive stuff. Jimmy, that's his explanation why he turned on Jey. And maybe now he's seeing glimpses and he's probably thinking he's got to do something too, to make sure Jey doesn't go and turn on like Roman because he prevented it the first time. Maybe Jimmy has another plan to prevent it the second time. I don't know, possibly something like that. And then also too, their posters that they had, the whole we back thing, stuff like that. Jimmy saying to the eyes shut. This one I found was very interesting when Jey commented this under Jimmy's post. Lead, I follow. Now what does that mean? I don't know, this could be a possibility of Jimmy going with Jey on this heel run, or I don't know, maybe Jey goes on the heel run on his own, I don't know, or some twist gonna happen probably at WrestlePalooza. I don't know, this is just a pinch of a theory, like I said, and no biggie. If it happens, it happens. If it don't, it don't. Just conversation. So I don't know, but maybe also too, Jey gives Jimmy an ultimatum with the whole Knight situation, the LA Knight situation going on. Jey's having issues with LA Knight and Jimmy's trying to play peacemaker. Jey probably gives him an ultimatum, are you going to choose him or me? That's pretty much Jey going to tell probably Jimmy. And, I think Brother's Keeper is going to kick in again, and I think Jimmy's going to go and be with Jey just for him to go and watch over Jey so Jey doesn't have to be corrupted again. It's a lot of layers, and this might be kind of confusing for some of you, if you don't really know the history and all this. But this is just my theory. Let me know your thoughts. This might be all over the place, like I said, but this story can get interesting if it's done right. They got to do a twist. It could be a really, really damn good path.